anyway, I met Sam. I heard Sam speak. He did a presentation a while back of how he works with his team, with our group, and there he is now. So Sam, dude, I really appreciate it. So we're kind of redoing our schedule so that we can, I know I'm imposing. I super appreciate you doing this, taking the time to meet with our group. I just real quick. So I looked up Mobility RE according to that, and I don't know how accurate it is. It's pretty accurate. 830 transactions he's done in the last 14 months for, I don't know, 300 and something. It's does crazy volume, but he couldn't be a nicer human being. That's what's so cool about this coaching program that I'm in. And we just got to talking, sitting by a fire, having a glass of wine at the end of the day. And he started talking about how he does business with CPAs. Sam's pretty direct communicator, so it was fun to listen to him tell me. He's like, these guys going after realtors. What do you like? Go get some CPAs. And so I just wanted him to share his experience with CPAs, and I'll let it rip. Go ahead, let it rip, Sam. Thank you.
Sounds good. Good morning, everybody. So there's actually, it's probably a bigger conversation than just CPAs alone. I think that there's a whole group of people that you can focus on where other loan officers are not, right? So you have CPAs, you have financial advisors, you have divorce attorneys, estate attorneys. So I think you have to really look outside the box. And everyone's chasing the realtors, but the CPAs, financial advisors, divorce attorneys, estate attorneys, they're not being hammered, right? No one's calling them, say, hey, let me take you to coffee, let me, be your backup lender. And so, I built my business, and I will tell you that, a lot of this was accidental, right? Like I didn't have some like master plan that I woke up one morning and go, hey, I'm going to go after CPAs and financial planners. It just kind of evolved. And I realized that I could communicate well with the CPAs, financial advisors, and attorneys, and actually kind of enjoyed talking to them better than realtors, just because of the way my brain worked. And a little background on me, and I kind of joke about this. My dad's a former CPA, and my mom's a child psychologist. So I always would joke, hey, I'm really good with numbers, and I'm a great listener, right? Well, the mortgage business couldn't be more perfect. If you were to sit there and say, okay, mom's a psychologist, dad's CPA, what business works, right? Boom, mortgage banking, and the rest is mortgage banking history. Just for perspective, I joined Academy Mortgage in 2010. They're a national lender, direct lender, and since then I've probably helped, well, not probably, I've helped about 5,600 families for about 1.7 billion. So give you some perspective, I've talked to a lot of CPAs and financial advisors, and they're actually pretty easy to talk to because they're not getting hammered. There's a number of different ways to do it. The simplest way really is, you're talking to a borrower on the phone and you find out that they're self-employed or they have a high net worth. The conversation goes something like this. So I'm always looking to get good relationships with CPAs. Do you like your CPA? And the borrower will say, Sam, I love my CPA. Wow, that's great. I'd love to get an introduction to your CPA. I'm always looking to get CPAs to refer to, right? So that's simple, right? I mean, you can't get any better than that on a script. So you get the buy-in. The borrower is certainly happy to make the introduction. If they don't like their CPA, then that's actually a second opportunity, because now you have an opportunity to refer one of your CPAs to them. And this goes in with the law of reciprocity, right? It's pretty simple, right? So if you're trying to get business from a CPA and you call them and they go, hey, listen, I got this small business owner. He's really dissatisfied with his CPA. Love to make an introduction, right? So it's really that simple. And it's just something that you have to get into your practice on a daily basis. Works the same thing with financial advisors, right? You're talking to an individual, you find out that they're getting their money from Morgan Stanley. Oh, I'm always looking to find really good financial advisors. It's the same pitch, right? Love to get an introduction. And when you're on the phone with the CPA or the financial advisor, the borrower may be on the phone, and you want to make them part of your team, right? You're, and I'm stealing this from someone else in coaching. You're captain of the wealth team, right? So you kind of have to put a different hat on, right? Yeah, you're a loan officer, but you're really captain of the wealth team. And the reason I say that is that we have the unique perspective of seeing both sides of the balance sheet, right? CPAs see typically liabilities, and financial advisors typically see assets. You guys see both, right? We're not really qualified for this, but that's just sort of the job that we've been handed, right? So when you're on the phone and It depends, right? Like some financial advisors want to be a part of it and some don't. But if you take the financial advisor perspective, he really doesn't necessarily want that bar to put 50% down, right? Like let's say they're selling a house and they get, $500,000. That financial advisor is probably going to say, wow, man, I could really use that money and put it under market. So you want to get their buy-in. And it's really important that when you have a financial advisor that's involved, that you get their approval. 9 times out of 10, they just accept what you offer. But by getting that buy-in, you make them feel part of the team, and it's also going to help with your sale a lot better. So now you've established a relationship with that financial advisor, and now it's really, now you got your at bat, right? So what you do next is really up to you as a salesperson. Is that financial advisor willing to talk to you? Is it worth, taking him to lunch? Is it willing to meet with his team? So I think it just depends. But I'm getting you guys the at bat, and then that's the next is really in your hands in terms of what you do with it. And a lot of them have teams, and you can meet with the team. The beauty of my pitch is that I don't work for a bank, right? Neither you guys. So we're not going to be there to steal their assets, right? So if there's a loan officer calling from Wells Fargo, you got Wells Fargo advisor. That financial advisor is really going to be not very excited about talking to you. I would tell you the best financial advisors are really the independent guys. The ones who have their own firm, and I'm blanking a little bit on who they typically have their assets under advisement, but those are really the great guys to go after. Same thing with like the some of the insurance folks, like Northwestern Mutual, if you have someone like in there, but you definitely want to target those. If you're going against like a Morgan Stanley or Bank of America, those companies have all made their financial advisors get NMLSs, so it's a little bit harder, and they can actually get fired for giving referrals. So I happen to get a lot of business from Morgan Stanley. And it's kind of funny because, we'll do it on text or we'll do it on their Gmail. But the reason they send it to me is that, number one, I'm going to do a much better job than their in-house people. And that's part of my pitch too, is that, imagine if you're a Morgan Stanley financial advisor and you're getting, 5 bips or 10 bips to the loan, and your in-house lender screws up the loan, you can lose a $3 million account. So that's sort of what my pitch is that, hey,
Nice.
You're
Nice.
not going to steal their account, and you're going to make the relationship whole. So that's kind of like an overview. I mean, I have a lot more to share, but does anybody have any questions so far on what I've shared?
So talk a little bit about when you were talking about, I'm going to go back to the CPA for a second, because when you first talked about how you did that, and then what was your follow-up? Because you had some pretty unique ideas about doing the follow-up that I liked, that was really interesting. And then I'm curious as to, after you have that first meeting, what kind of a touch do you do on a consistent basis?
Great question. So with the CPAs, they're pretty easy to get on the phone. It's not tax season now, so now is really a good time to get with them. Some of them I actually would go to their office if I thought that they were going to be worth my time. Others would just be a phone conversation. Definitely would connect with them on social media, LinkedIn, if they have a Facebook, things like that. Add them to our marketing, which they may or may not stay to. But one of the things that I do in December is I send out a CPA financial advisor stress kit. It's really cheap. It's just got, like typically candy, a stress toy that's got a little house. It's got my name on it. There's some other tchotchkes in there. You can get them. I mean, just Google CPA stress kit. It's not really, anything that I came up with on my own. It's a few bucks, and you just be consistent to stay in front of them. Obviously, if it's a pretty big firm, do a breakfast just so you get out there and meet the folks. I mean, they're always looking for good partners, right? And that's, I think, how you have to come in, is that we're a team, right? And if you involve them in the decision making, you just need a handful of them, right? I mean, they give you, and then especially they come in. Some are better than others, but I mean, I have a core group of CPAs that, I get referrals all the time. Some of them I haven't even met, right? But they just know that their clients coming in and they need to refinance, or they need to buy a house, or they've got a kid involved, and I just get the referral from stuff like that.
It looks like you do a fair amount, because I noticed in your Mobility RE listing of all the realtors that refer business to you, the chunk of them are at the top that do a lot of business. You got a whale in there, and then I noticed a lot of one transaction realtors, and I'm thinking those have to be other professionals that referred you, and then that's the buyer's agent they ended up using. And so, do you have an idea of how much referral? You do so much volume. So
I really do. I used to track it pretty regularly, and I just stopped. There's only so much time in the day. And I can talk. Look, we could schedule another time to talk about how I do my business, and because I am unique in that I am not a realtor-driven loan officer. So besides the financial advisors and the CPAs and attorneys, my business is really a lot of times the borrower's calling me, and they're not referred by an agent. They're, oh, my friend told me to call you, or my mom told me, or my coworkers. But back to the financial advisors and CPA, a couple other ways if you don't have the volume or the history, right? Like let's say you're a new loan officer, right? So you don't have a lot of loans you're working on. There's some really easy ways to meet CPAs and financial planners. All of them need continuing education, right? So there's a couple courses out there that you can get. I think we can get one from Craig Strand, but if you get, I think it used to be called CMPS, but I think there's another one. But if you're really going to go after that, you do want to take that extra time to get that designation as a mortgage planning specialist. Just first of all, it looks good on your email, but you also can, when you're talking to these folks, you can let them know you have a designation. But there are plenty of times where you can present to CPAs or financial advisors for CE. It's a great way to meet people. And you have kind of a captive audience because they have to be there for their CE. So it really just depends on first of all, how much time you have, right? And how far you want to take it. But I mean, the beauty of the financial advisors, CPAs, and attorneys, they only give out one name, right? You're never going to have a CPA go, oh, I got to give out 3 names, right? Like a realtor does. It just never happens, right? So you already have a pretty good chance, unless you completely screw it up, you're going to get that client, right? Their financial advisors referring you. You're not really being shopped. I would say those loans are probably more profitable too, because you're not having to drop your pants.
Well, and typically a lot cleaner borrower too, right? You're talking about somebody with a pretty good FICO and assets and all of that.
100%. And I joke, like when people look at my numbers, there's no secret. My clients are typically high credit scores, college educated, have an email address, have a computer. I don't do too many hourly people. I'll do them, but you don't do the volume I do if you have borrowers that are, scraping together their down payment, or have a 640 credit score. So I think that if you're gonna go in the mortgage business, why not go for the low hanging fruit? You can sit there and be the challenging credit loan officer. But I mean,
I always told like new loan officers when they're talking to realtors goes like, well, so what kind of loans you do? Is like, oh, we have the bond loans, we have FHA, little minimum down payment, 0 down. And I always tell the loan officers, no, answer like this. I don't know about you, but I like working with borrowers with big down payments and great credit. How about you? Right. So everybody wants that, right? So be careful what you fish for.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can become that loan officer and do that stuff. I just chose not to. I get frustrated where I'm trying to put together a loan for a borrower, and they have an NSF under credit, or they took off of work for something, and you're like, oh my God, it's not something you want to do. So I think that if you're building your book of business and you want to do lots of loans and you want to have great borrowers that are responsive, there's a reason they have good credit, right? And they're responsible people. So I think that, that's another takeaway from it. The other thing about, the financial advisors is really, you can, back to the captain of the wealth team, right? You're really working with them. And, one of the other takeaways from the presentation that we did in Santa Cruz was the fact that wealthy people are wealthy because they have better information, right? So you can really use that as sort of a line when you're talking to the advisor, right? A lot of wealthy people have these family house accounts or the brokerage. Well, they have better information, right? So the wealthy just get wealthier because they have better information. So that's how you sort of, if you're going to go in that direction, you want to put yourself as an advisor and a trusted person, and it's going to make the borrower and the advisor want to do business with you too. And that's how you can differentiate yourself.
I so appreciate your time. Does anybody have a quick question or two that they want to throw at Sam?
Yeah, Sam, thanks for you. Oh, go for it, Dean.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, all right. Sam, thanks for joining us. I just have a quick question in terms of how many CPAs you actually refer out, right? Is that a differentiating factor in how many you end up working with? Because I feel like sometimes, right, if you have too many and you're not referring them back? How does that, I mean, how does that play out in your relationship?
You know, that's a great question. You know, I have a handful of them that I really like working with, and I couldn't tell you the actual number just because the list is pretty long. But there's certain ones that I know, and I would say that, you know, in terms of, and I think this is important too, and one of the reasons I've been successful is that the referral network you have today may not be the same one you have a year from now, right? And I think that that's important. So I'm always constantly adding and growing. Look, I'm not going to get a call from a CPA going, "Why haven't you sent me any business?" It's just not their. It's not. They don't care. I mean, it's just not the way they work, right? It's not like a realtor going, "Oh, I gave you 6 buyers. You know, where's my buyers?" It's just, it's not something that comes. They're not. I mean, I could go 18 months and not talk to the CPA. That doesn't mean like he's like, "Oh, screw Sam. He hasn't sent me anybody." It's just. It's not. It's a completely different type of conversation. And they're not necessarily, remember, these guys, CPAs are not, they're not realtors, right? They're not marketing themselves per se. They don't have business development people. They don't have big egos. It's just, they're just freaking, you know, look what they're doing. I mean, boring as hell. So, you know, I can say that my dad's a CPA. Yeah. So
Anybody
not
else?
boring.
Anybody else? Cool. Well, Dean, you have something?
Yeah, just one quick question, Sam. Other than just saying, hey, when you have somebody that needs a refi or they're looking to buy, send them my way, is there something else you do to get more ingrained in the CPA business? Are you doing education for their clients? Are you, is there some other value you're bringing to them?
So I will, if there's a good article, I will occasionally drop something in the mail, right? Old school, right? You know, send them an article because email gets cluttered. So I find that if I have a good article, mortgage related or something that might be something, I'll just, you know, drop them in an envelope, you know, with a little note, "Hey, you know, just thought this article would be interesting." And they're going to open it, right? It's not like the old days where they're going to get 100 pieces of mail. So you can kind of stay top of mind. But I think it's important that you do connect with them on LinkedIn and social media because they're on there too. And you can do that. And obviously annually they do get, you know, something from me in December, which is great because typically now you're top of mind in December, right? What's going to happen? They're going to be meeting with the clients to do tax returns in February and March. And the financial advisors, those of you who don't work with them, there's always a delay in getting out the K1s and the 1099s and the financial statements. So it's also a good time where someone who is a high net worth or even medium net worth, they're going to be holding off on filing their tax return, and they're going to be bothering their financial advisor. And maybe it comes up in conversation, you know, about the mortgage. Some guys are more active than others, you know, in terms of you know, trying to be helpful to their clients.
Sam, this was phenomenal. I really appreciate you taking a few minutes and just to hear. It isn't, we're not curing cancer here. We're just, all we're doing is building relationships and being good at what you do. And just like, it was really fun. First of all, thank you. It was great getting to know you in at 1440. And then thanks for taking the time to do this. I know you're busy and you don't get paid for this. So I owe you one. And so I'll buy you a drink the next time we get together.
I'm happy to help. And hopefully, you know, some of you on this call will actually take some action plans from this. It's easy. I mean, it's just a matter of, you know, I kind of call it, and I should have brought this up in the beginning. I call it page 5 of the 1003, right? You know, and you know, there's no fancy form, like don't email me, "Hey, can I page 5 of the 1003?" It's kind of a, you know, something that it's been around for about 30 years. But basically page 5 of the 1003 is when you're asking that borrower, right, after you've gotten their employment and their income and their assets, "Hey, who's your CPA? Who's your financial advisor? Who's your estate attorney?" Right? So, you know, I would say that's really sort of put in your head, "Hey, I got page 5 of 1003. And that's going to remind you to ask those questions. And it's pretty simple. I mean, it's not a hard way to grow your business. So hopefully that's a good takeaway for everybody.
Well, and they don't hang up on you when you call like a realtor, especially in June of 2022, because all the refi guys are dying and they're just pounding realtors. So anyway, Sam, thanks again, dude. I really appreciate it. I'll just let you keep talking if you're going to keep talking, but I know you have work to do. So
no, it's fine. I'm happy that, you know, I was able to share some of my gems here, and you know, good luck, guys. Happy hunting.
Thanks, dude. Really appreciate it. Have an awesome day. Have a great weekend, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Jacqueline did something pretty unique, and she's been sharing it with me, and I just wanted kind of ties in with what Giuseppe was saying, and just share what you discovered doing some research on Zillow.
Yeah, so I was working on a TCA presentation that I was going to put out on social media, and just looking at, I was basically just trying to find ways to stay positive with everything that was going on with the market, with rates and everything like that. And I approached it from the perspective of, okay, so yeah, rates are up, but prices are also coming down on properties. We're seeing more price reductions. So why not figure out how to talk about the leverage that creates for the consumer instead? And so I just did a really random sampling on Zillow of properties in the Denver metro area. And I picked a random page, because I did it anywhere from like $0 all the way up to $1 million. And I just picked a page in there of all the properties. And there's about 40 listings per page. And I just went through the list to find out how many of those properties had a price reduction. And it ended up being 12 of the 40 for a total of 309,000. And so just using that as information. And through that process, I actually stumbled across a property that had a $50,000 price reduction in the $950,000 price range. And I was looking at it, I'm like, man, that's stupid. And so I reached out to that agent and was like, hey, have you heard of a seller buy down strategy? And so I just sent that over to him. It wasn't anywhere near my intention to use it to prospect an agent, but she's looked at it, but she's not responded to me. But I figure if nothing else, I put some information out there. So yeah, so that's kind of what I did. Of all of those properties, it was averaging out about $7,500 in seller or price reductions per property.
So 25%, a little more than 25% of the properties are showing a price reduction. And if this continues, you're going to see a bigger and bigger share of it. And the point of this is, and what I wanted to share with you guys is, go to the Mortgage Coach channel. You guys should all have subscribed to Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. Go to that channel and just in the search bar, type seller buy down strategies. You will find a couple, at least a half a dozen, if not more, video presentations going back. Now this goes back, they're not doing this yet, but this goes back like 3-4 years ago, before it was like 2018, where rates had started to rise again. And they started to share these seller buy down strategies. This isn't that you're going to like start doing a bunch of these. It's that you've got a story to tell and share about different strategies that consumers can use. And for listing agents, it's a great way to target. I would go to all of my agents that had listings and go like, hey, I'm not sure what's going on, but let me show you something before you start listing properties. You're just going to solidify your relationship with the agents that you're already doing business with. And there's some really good takeaways on there, and you can just listen to these. You'll get it. You don't have to watch the video. So you can just listen to these while you're driving too. And it's something that we used to do. We used to have a program way back in the early 2000s that was called power home buying, where you'd use seller funds to do 2-1 buy downs or 3-2-1. You'd use seller financing to 2 or 3 2-year 2-1 buy downs or 3-2-1 buy downs. And you did it with seller funds. And the concept is, and I still believe this is true, ultimately your client cares about two things on a purchase. How much money do I need on the day of closing? And what's my monthly payment going to be? All the other stuff that we do is important, but those are the two things they really want from you. And the rate, I heard a great quote from, I can't remember her name. Who was that gal, Giuseppe, that worked? Oh, Amy Slotnick, big producer in Boston with Fairway. I haven't talked to Amy in years, but she got in the habit when rates were rising. She got in the habit of just when the customer was getting ready to lock in. So here, she would never say the rate. She would just say, so here's what your monthly payment is when we lock you in. And they're like, oh, it's like, yeah, and here's the rate. And and that's all my payment is? Because we're all screwed up with this psychology of the rate and how much it is. We all have our own head trash about this. So just something to keep in mind. And those are the two things they care about. When you watch some of these strategies, Jacqueline's point, what she was trying to point out is like, you could have kept the price the same. And instead of dropping the price 50 grand, you could have done a seller concession for 10 grand and bought the customer the rate and payment, not the rate, but the payment they would have gotten with the difference. So she's done, she posted a video on Facebook the other day that's actually really good. And it talks about the difference between getting a price reduction on the house versus using the price reduction to buy the rate down to a rate, and it's built into the price of the house, right? So that, yes, the customer's still paying a higher price, but they're getting the payment that they want ultimately. And for people that are payment sensitive, that's critical, especially for somebody who's out there. And Giuseppe's point, it's like, tell your buyers that are pre-approved, go make an offer, and you don't have to accept, and don't ask for a price reduction. Ask for a seller concession to buy that rate down. And when you see these seller buy down strategies, you'll see what we're talking about. And then, so Christine sent me a direct message that she wanted to bring up escrow. What did you want to bring up? Because I know very little about this tool.
We can talk about it later because I know we're over time, but I would highly suggest bringing Hannah Roth in maybe next Friday to talk about that program and what it can do for our referral partners. I sat down with her for a half hour yesterday, and it's amazing. It's basically a CRM that we can offer to our referral partners that ties in with ours, and you can share leads back and forth. It really allows them to kind of use some ninja sales techniques as far as keeping top of mind and keeping marketing drips going. There's like sign up sheets for their open houses. It costs them $40 a month. So there's a lot more to it, but I would suggest bringing her on for a whole 30-minute spiel next week.
So what was her name? Or can you email that? Just email it to Dean and then, or to Dean and I, and then we'll get her on the
video
call.
thing through there too. I didn't know that we had that through VIP called Tsunami, where they can actually create social videos for you. We have a whole bunch of resources I didn't even know until yesterday that are massive. I went and sold it to 2 agents yesterday right after I got off the phone. Like immediately.
And
they're signing up for it. They're super pumped.
For Tsunami?
No, for escrow.
Oh, okay.
I guess it kind of died through COVID. Like they took some time to rebrand and everything, but it's a CRM specifically developed for agents that helps their business grow. They come in and do lunch and learns actually for you. You don't have to do it, and it's free. They just need 2 weeks notice. It's taken a ton of work off my plate of the things that I do naturally as a sales rep. So it was pretty amazing. I didn't even know we had that.
well, that's an awesome share, Christine. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's in the hub if you guys want to go check it out.
I have honestly never looked at it. And I think I remember when they rolled it out, I think it was right before COVID and then COVID. So
it's huge. Well, if you ask, like a big part of what I sell is business coaching because I have sales experience and how to look at your numbers at the end of the year. And no agent out there has a good CRM process or
none of them.
So if you, especially right now, can get in front of them and say, hey, I have a system for this, and it ties in with yours, you can see each other's leads in real time too. They can send you a lead through the system. It automatically comes to ours. It's pretty freaking awesome. It's going to be what I'm going to be selling now. I mean, 100%.
Well, this was a pretty good call.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you. I'm sorry we went a little bit over. Sam was great. So we'll have a recording of this out to everybody. Let's have an awesome Friday. Thanks for all the sharing, everybody. And I'll see you on the call at noon.